I'm Kyle Chetty. I am the head of people at Planet 42. My ultimate dad joke is, what do you call a man that cannot stand? Neil.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Connect HR Hangouts. It's your favorite sizzling host, Babi Mawela. We are back with episode 25. Thank you for subscribing, for sharing, for commenting and liking. If you're new here, welcome. And if you are a returning subscriber, welcome back. We appreciate your commitment. In studio today, we have Kyle Chetty. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. By the way, the energy is great today.
Thank you.
We appreciate your presence. It's your time to shine now. Please let our viewers know who you are, what you do, where you come from, just everything.
Sure. So as you guys know, my name is Kyle. I am currently the head of people for a company called Planet 42. And our purpose is to make mobility accessible.
Okay.
And we want to give South Africans an opportunity to get mobility. And that creates a opportunity for them to change their lives, change the lives of their families, change the lives of their communities. Just a little bit in terms of, by making mobility accessible, instead of using public transport, you're able to get a car. With that car, you can take your kids out on a weekend, as an example. And that's an opportunity that they would never have had.
True.
With that, then, you get to work better on time. You don't need to deal with traffic and robberies and all of those things. And that's essentially what our company does. I've been in HR for a long time, I think. Started off very early in my career. And I think what drew me to this career was just my passion I have for people, but people making a difference in an organization. So how do I take this? How do I take an organization and mash them together? My purpose in life is to make a difference.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to do. And I think I do that through people. Started off very early. Grew up in KZN, very small family. Finished high school, then decided to go to Six Flags Great Adventure, which is in the USA.
Oh, okay.
It was supposed to be a gap year. Didn't end up turning into a gap year. Ended up being 2 years.
Okay.
But I started off in general retail, and then worked my way up. Became a labor supervisor for them, and that's really where I got my niche for HR.
Okay.
Is niche the right word? No. Can take that out. I think that's where I got my sort of flair or my passion for HR. That's the one. Did that, came back to South Africa, couldn't really get a job in HR.
Okay.
No one wants to hire a young boy that hasn't even reached 20 yet, that's got labor experience, operational experience. No one wants to hire you. I then worked for JD Group as a call center agent, worked my way up through the call center. Who is now a very good friend of mine and was my mentor at that point, I used to hound him for a job in HR. And eventually when a role came up, he gave it to me. He took that opportunity with me. It was him and one of my other mentors who was the exec at that time. And that's where I started in HR. And I've loved it. It's been quite a ride.
I can imagine.
But so been there, currently married, got 2 lovely children, and my wife that supports me all the way. So I really enjoy spending time with my family when I'm not at work. And just, I think you've reached a point in your life where it's like you just blow out all the smoke and the stress and just focus on what matters. And that's important for me.
Sure, that's amazing. You've done well for yourself.
Thank you.
And we are very privileged to have you here today. So today our topic is the other side of HR. And what we are tackling is, the stuff that people don't like to talk about in organizations, the tricky stuff, and we saw a need to have you here because you tackle these topics with such grace, and we'd like you to educate our viewers, on how to overcome issues. So when we say the other side of HR, we're speaking of ageism, racism, sexual harassment, performance management, all kinds of stuff. So as you know, racial discrimination in recruitment remains a critical challenge. Excuse me. What steps should organizations take to overcome biases in their hiring process?
I think the first step is for organizations to become aware and acknowledge that there is biases there. And as much as we can say there isn't, there is.
True.
And I think that it starts with this sort of awareness, and then organizations need to be meaningful in what they want to do.
Yeah.
It's easy to put a recruitment process together, but is it meaningful, and is it taking away this elimination of racism? And I think in South Africa, race becomes a very sensitive topic.
True.
And it's important that we eliminate this. Let's hire the right person for the job.
Yeah.
Irrespective of what race they are, right? But at the same time, I strongly believe that we need to give people the opportunity that they never had.
True.
Because that's also a way of transformation. I think, looking at organizations, some things that we could do is, I've made some notes around, implementing a structured interview process.
Yes.
So what is the purpose of this interview? Why am I interviewing this candidate? Sometimes you go through interview processes in organizations where there's a 2 or 3 step interview process.
Yeah.
The question is why?
Yeah.
Did it take you that long to figure out that this was the candidate? Or what is the reason for that?
Yeah.
And identify that. The next thing is use a diverse hiring panel. And that's quite important also. Because then you get difference of opinions and you're able to see what is the type of feedback I'm getting for this candidate. I can tell you, I've not had jobs because of my race.
Yeah.
Right? And they would tell you straight, you were the best candidate for this job, but I'm not giving it to you because I don't get the BE points that I need.
True.
Right? And now you sit back and you're there and you're like, okay, but if I was the right candidate for this job, why did you not give me the job? And funny enough, sometimes HR is only so small. So you would know some of these people that got those jobs,
exactly,
right?
Yeah.
And then a few months later, a few years later, you'll see that they were dismissed or whatever the case may be. And you're like, you see, you should have just given it to me. But I think when we're looking at organizations around it, it's just, let's create the right awareness.
Yeah.
Having a nice panel can help you identify the right traits in the candidate, why they are the right person for the job, what will success look like for them, and you're eliminating the biasness. I can give you an example. Like we had an individual that will only hire people in their department if they were Xhosa.
Sure.
And if they were not, they would not hire them. And it came to a point where this individual will then fire people for whatever reason if they were not that.
Yeah.
Right? And again, maybe that's going into tribalism.
Yes.
I don't know, right?
Yes.
But we had to eliminate that. And one of the things that we then did was, let's put a panel in there that's maybe not Xhosa speaking or not from that tribe.
Exactly.
And then you'll see things start to get different now, because now I'm hiring people that are not necessarily from a specific tribe, right? And I think for me, that's some of or just a few ways that we can eliminate that. Will we ever eliminate it completely? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I agree. I think it's a question we'll never have an answer to. We don't know how long that's gonna take. And based on your experience, can you share examples of initiatives or tools that have been successful in reducing racial bias and promoting diversity in hiring?
I think try to use AI. Right?
Yeah, okay.
Because AI doesn't have feelings, if I may put it that way, right? So it's not how I feel, but who's the candidate. The other thing that I started doing in one of the organizations that I used to work for is I would remove any personal information about the individual. So if you were coming for a job interview or whatever, I would take your CV, I would remove your personal information. So I would not put your name or surname, I would put your initial.
Okay.
And I would just put where you live, whether you were male or female, and sometimes I even took that out. And that's it.
Yeah.
So when the manager is now shortlisting the CVs, it's not based on, okay, but who is this person? What is their race or what is their, whatever. Okay, I've got the CV. All it says is this personal initial, and this is the skill set. This is the competency. So now I'm removing all of this, whether it's conscious or unconscious bias on this, I'm removing all of that away.
Yeah.
And now I'm just looking at the candidate based on their CV.
Sure. That is amazing. I never thought of that as a way to ensure that people are successful in the hiring process. So thank you for sharing that. That was actually very insightful. And now I want to touch on ageism. You touched something in your background where you explained that it was difficult for you to get started in your career because of age. And my next question would then be, I think in the workplace, this has become significant, where people are not being hired because of age, or people get denied of certain positions because of age. So what are some common misconceptions about older or younger workers in organizations?
I think the first thing around age is that we look at people's age and then we say that they don't have enough experience.
True.
And for me is, what does that mean? Because you have not walked in my shoes. I could have had a very challenging life, if that could say, and I could have gained experience that you may not necessarily have gained at my age.
True.
So what makes us different? I fail to understand why people want to associate experience with age. Yes, I will give you, some people do have more life experience the older that they get.
True.
But you don't know the difficulties I faced as a 30-year-old. So how can you say that my life experience is not there? And we often associate that because when we want to hire managers, as an example, we then put certain conditions on this, that they must be over the age of 40. Who says 40 is going to give you life experience?
True.
Right? They must come from this background or this, we need to try and eliminate that because there's this misconception that older workers are sort of, resistant to change, that they don't understand technology well, that they're going to, they're not going to adapt to this new vibey culture that we want to create, right? How do you know that? When PCs were introduced, who were the ones that were using and implementing them? It was them. So how can you now say, but they're resistant to change? They're not, right? They maybe want a more simplified approach, which could be very different. You need these older people, and if I may put it older, I mean, what is the definition of old as well, right?
Exactly.
But you want these people that have experiences, and I'm going to say experiences because it doesn't matter what age you're in. It's the experience that you can bring. So you want these people to bring this invaluable experience because then you can see how it's going to change your business. It's going to give you stability. It's going to give you, they bring in stronger work ethic. And I think we always get that from our parents, right? I was saying, my mom's worked for a business for over 42 years. My father-in-law has been there, I think, for more than 30 some odd years as well, right? They've been in the same business. Why have they stayed and we didn't? Right?
Yeah.
Because we put this notion on young people must only stay in a business for 5 years because that's the stats. Okay, yes, some people want that.
Yeah.
But some people don't. Some people want to work in an organization where they feel valued, where they feel appreciated, and where they get remunerated correctly. Give me those 3 things and I'll stay there for life. Right? So we've got this ageism thing that we've got young people that are labeled as entitled or we lack loyalty. And I'm saying it because I consider myself young.
Yes, you are young.
and in reality, sometimes you want this fresh perspective that they bring. They bring this flair, right? They get the older people rallied up and jiving and all of those things. So you need to strike that balance because it gets this sort of collaboration that's there, right? But oftentimes it's it's like we want to shy away from hiring young people because, we were having this conversation before. It's like, well, I'm either too young or too old. Can you decide? Because now, once I have the life experience, I've now got the qualification and I've got all of these things. Now, all of a sudden, I'm too experienced for the job.
Yes.
Like, can you decide what you want from me?
Because there's nothing in between.
There's nothing. And what you need to do is when you're doing this recruitment process and when you're going through candidates in an organization and you're looking at some of these things, you need to look at, and this is where diversity comes in, right? Is let's look at a diverse candidate that's going to give us more than what we want. Because let's be honest, that's essentially what a business wants, right?
True.
I'm going to pay you X amount, but I'm expecting far more than that because that's my ROI. How do you get that? You want to bring people that are multi-talented. You want to bring people in that understands different aspects of the business. You want to bring people in that can give you that flair, that has the experience from other smaller or bigger businesses that can impart this knowledge in your business. Why are you shying away from it? Because I'm 35-year-old, now I can't be an exec. Why? And these are the questions that we ask ourselves. And again, I can tell you, there were times where people were like, well, you're too old to be a manager.
Yeah.
I mean, we've said that to lots of people, right? I've had instances where you're too young to be an executive. What does that mean? Or now that you're an executive, well, why do you want the salary? You're too young. What are you going to do with it? Like, you're not married. You don't have kids. Why do you need the salary? Like, you just take X. And that's the thing that we're dealing with, which is the other side of HR that no one wants to tell you about. No one wants to speak about, but it's there. It's lingering. But we're not bold enough to have these conversations.
True, sure. And, as you're talking, I'm also thinking about issues around performance management as well. I think that's also a touchy topic because people think, oh, my performance is measured unfairly. They're not taking this and that into consideration. So how can HR leaders effectively implement a culture of continuous feedback without overwhelming employees or managers?
So let's start with the first one, right?
Yeah.
Performance management. This is me.
Yes.
It's no scientific thing anywhere that you'll find. This is just my opinion.
Yeah.
People don't perform for two reasons. They either don't know how to perform. It's then your job as a business to help them and give them the competencies and capabilities to perform.
Yeah.
What is HR doing? What is the line manager doing? I hired this individual for a reason. There's a reason why I hired them. There's a reason why, we've seen something in them.
Yes.
Right? So now it's, how do I get them to a point where they can perform? I know they can.
Yes.
Is it continuous feedback that I need to have? These old ways of doing performance reviews need to be changed. We can't sit every 3 months. Yes, it's there, it's necessary because I guess it determines your salary increase and your bonus and all of that fun stuff. But how do I address the issue? Is it ongoing conversations, one-on-ones? Is it bi-weekly sessions that I need to have? Is it a survey? Do you feel that you're heard? Do you feel that you're performing? All of those things, right? Sometimes, how do I take this employee and make them the best version that they can be in this organization? So, we often have, we talk about talent pools and talent pipelines and taking, let's say you're the best call center agent.
Yeah.
Now I need to make you a team leader. You don't have the leadership capabilities. How do I get you there?
Yeah.
But what if you never wanted to be a team lead? So how do I get you to be the best performing call center agent? Okay. And those are some of the things we need to look at. And one of the big things around performance is feedback.
Yeah.
If we don't give the right feedback, they're never going to know how they're performing. They never know what they're going to achieve. They never know how they're going to get there. I think the HR term for that is contracting, right? How do we contract around this? Okay. The next thing of why people don't perform, and my second reason, is that they know how to perform. They just don't want to perform.
Yes.
Then, as HR line manager, you need an exit strategy for them. How do I exit them quickly out of my business? Because that is cancer in my business. Hire slow, fire fast. If I see that you're not performing, you have the capabilities, I've hired you for a reason, and you're not performing, why? Let's have that conversation.
Yeah.
And if you can't give me a valid answer of why, and it's like, oh, I just don't want to be here and it's the environment, then you need to move. You're not a tree. Find the environment where you're going to flourish. Find the environment where you're going to be the best version of yourself and you're going to perform. And then we don't need to have this bad performance conversations. Because when people also talk about performance management, and maybe HR is to blame for this, I don't know, is that we use this as a whoop exercise. So you haven't met your performance standards. I'm now going to put you on performance management. What does performance management lead to? I'm going to have conversations with you. Third conversation, you're fired. Out. And that should not be the case. It should be, let me put you on performance management to help manage your performance, to get you to a point where you should be performing at that optimal level that we need you to perform and get a little bit more from you, right? And I think that's important, is like the way we create this continuous sort of, or your question was around how do we implement this?
Yes.
One of the ways we implement this is by clear communication.
Yeah.
And sometimes we feel that we have it. And, systems help that, right? Having a good HRIS system can help you communicate these things.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't necessarily have to be me having, sitting you down and having a conversation with you. Have a conversation through a system and say, you're started. This is what success looks like in this role. This is how I'm going to measure you. You tick in and put in your feedback or do whatever you need to do. And you'll be able to see, hey, listen, it's 2 months. This is how I performed. It's telling me, my rags.
Yes.
Right? And now I know whether I'm performing or not. And if I'm not, what am I going to do? So now I need to go to my manager and say, hey, listen, manager, let's have a conversation. I know I'm not performing. How do I get there?
Sure.
Because otherwise, feedback around performance between managers and employees can also be biased as well, right?
True.
Because now it's depending on my mood, it's depending how I feel on the day, depending on my salary. And oftentimes, as HR, when we do a leveling or whatever you want to call it, we find that performance conversations that happens closer to payday or in bonus payout are fantastic. Then everyone's performing. But when it's time where the business is suffering, we're not able to give salary increases, bonuses, or everyone's broke, or it's, a specific time of the year or whatever the case may be, those performance don't look great.
Yeah.
Then you also find is that when performance is directly linked to compensation, then it's a different story. So then it's because as a manager, I feel now that I can't have this conversation with you because it's going to impact your pocket. I'm just going to put a 3 for the sake of putting a 3, right? Because I don't want to be the bad person. Now I'm taking food out of your child's mouth, right? One of the things that I've done in a previous organization is we changed our rating scale.
Okay.
So first we had a 5-point rating scale and the default was 3.
I was about to say 3. Yeah.
Everyone gets 3, right? Then we changed our rating scale to a 3-point rating scale because we don't want to be complicated. 1, 2, and 3. What was the default rating? 2. Now, I was like, this is not happening. We need a rating scale. As much as we like it, we put people in frameworks, we put people in boxes. It's one of those HR things. Yeah. It's a thing, right? We then put a rating scale, a 4-point rating scale. What's your default?
2.
2 is you have not met the standard.
3?
3 is you've met the standard, but then why didn't I get a 4?
Okay. 4.
Right?
Yeah.
So now it became harder for managers to have conversations.
Yeah.
And our job then as HR is to equip them, give them the right training. This is how you deal with performance. This is how you have the conversation. In fact, when we are meeting to discuss your performance review or rating, you should already know how you performed. I shouldn't tell you.
Yeah.
This should not be a debate. It should be a conversation. Hey, let's both agree. Listen, my performance is a 3. Sometimes, I had a conversation with my CEO last week. There has been so much going on in our business at the moment. I felt I was not achieving my performance standards. Yes. In my one-on-one, I already said to my CEO, I'm telling you now, I've not met my deliverables. I don't know. I can't say I don't know why. I know why I haven't met it. It's because of these factors, but it should not be an excuse. And if we need to have this performance conversation, let's have this conversation. I'm ready for it because I'm telling you, I've not done it.
Yeah.
I know I haven't done it. But these are the reasons why. Priorities have shifted, business needs, there's this, there's that, and all of those things. And we were able to have a mature conversation. It's like, Kyle, listen, I understand you haven't done these things, but and also understand the reasons that you're giving to me. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
How do we reprioritize some of these things? How do we get you to a point where we feel that you feel that you've performed and you've achieved on the business results? Let's have that conversation. And I think that's some of the things that we're lacking in business.
Yeah.
We're lacking as HR to have those conversations because we want to put people in boxes. We want to put people, in some sort of review process. That doesn't make sense. If it doesn't add value to business and if it's not fit for purpose, why are we doing it?
Yeah. Ladies and gents, we're still with Kyle Chetty, and as you have seen, he is sharing some knowledge bombs with us and sharing his personal experience, and he's just everything with us about the other side of HR, which we are on part 2 now. And there's so much that I want to ask, right?
You're digging deep now.
Yeah, we're digging deep. So people are experiencing a lot of challenges, especially in big organizations, but I can say in also small organizations because, corporate life is corporate life. So how can people navigate corporate politics, people stealing their ideas, so employees complain about managers stealing their ideas and making it their own. How does one navigate all of that?
That is a loaded question. So
yeah,
I think corporate politics will always be there.
Yeah.
Right. It's never going to go away. And it's just one of those things. However, if you have the right culture in your business, then that speaks to the politics you'll entertain or you won't. Right?
Okay.
So set the right behavior. So this is set the tone for my culture, for the culture in the business, and say, this is my culture for my business.
Yeah.
This is the behaviors that I will tolerate.
Yeah.
And this is the ones that I won't.
Yes.
But then as the leadership and executive team of that business, it's up to you to make sure that these things unfold. It starts with you, whether we like it or not, right? Personally, I found corporate politics is worse off in small organizations than it is in big.
I really agree. The smaller the business,
the more politics you have. Like, geez, like, can we stop?
Yeah.
Right. So it just depends how you're going to navigate them. I think the reason why it's worse off in smaller organizations because there's not that many levels that filters or dilutes this. Right?
Yes.
And maybe also not as established as your bigger organizations where you have some of these policies or cultural attributes or whatever the case may be. Managers that steal ideas, they will always be there. Not necessarily means they'll always stay.
Oh.
In my experience, I've also found like managers will take your ideas, but managers that steal ideas and don't give credit talks about their insecurity.
Sure.
If you are secure in your job and you are secure in what you can bring to the table, you should actually cultivate a team where they are sharing ideas.
Yeah.
You must hire people that are better than you. Period.
Sure. I'd never looked at it that way.
I should not be hiring people and telling them what to do. You're creating more work for yourself as a manager. Like, imagine me hiring people and I need to now be behind them all the time and tell them, you must do it this way. And this is what I think you should do. Like, then why are you hiring people? Just hire people that can do it. Don't hire people for their sense of imagination, if I may put it that way. Right? Me, personally, I would tend to think, and maybe my team will hopefully validate that, is that we would give credit where credit is due. If this is your work, It's your work. You must present it.
Yeah.
Or even if I am presenting it, I am not afraid to say that, for example, Done in my team has done this.
Yes.
Or this was Sapati's idea. Or I've got another Kyle in my team. This was Kyle's idea, whatever the case may be. I should not be afraid of saying that because I am secure in my job.
Yeah.
I'm secure in myself and I'm secure in my capabilities. I don't need to take someone else's work to make myself look good. In fact, I'm doing my team a disservice. I should want them to look good. I should want to give them that exposure that gives them a platform to share their ideas, that promotes themselves. So the next time we're looking for people in the business, we have them here. It's not one person. We are better when we collaborate with each other.
I agree.
Because if I'm going to steal your ideas, I used to have this one manager.
Yeah.
And I would share stuff and do stuff and whatever the case may be, and I would share it with him, and he would take it and present it as his own. And when he would go to his meetings, he would say to me, you need to be on your phone, on WhatsApp. Because if there was questions asked, he would then WhatsApp me those questions and I would need to answer those questions. Because if I didn't answer, he would be pissed with me. Like he would come back, I tried messaging you. Why were you not on your phone? And I'm like, because I was on lunch or I was busy or whatever. Like, that's not acceptable because I asked you a question and I'm like, well, okay, if you knew it, why didn't you answer the question? Like, you understand what I mean? So I think as managers and like people coming into HR, into corporate and even HR people, we know these things. And sometimes it's hard for us to speak out.
Yeah.
Because the culture then we create is if you now challenge certain managers, then you're out the door.
True.
Or we'll start victimizing you. Or we'll start making life very difficult for you where you would need to go, right? So it becomes hard for people to voice their opinions to their managers and say, hey, but that's my idea. Or even HR to address some of those things. Hence why I'm saying it's a collective effort with everyone in business. Let's create the right culture. And also, it doesn't matter whose idea it is. If it's benefiting the business, why we're not doing it? This business sustains all of us.
True.
So if this is an idea that's going to help the business grow, let's do it, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes that's how I dealt with the manager that was stealing my ideas. I just never answered my phone. And eventually they show themselves off. The seeds you plant is the fruit you bear. And if you're going to cultivate this and steal people's ideas, and at some point it's going to show itself where you're incompetent. And I've seen it.
True.
You've been around this more way. We've seen managers that try to look good and take other people's ideas and make themselves look good and create, a terrible environment for their team.
Yeah.
You'll see at some point or another, something catches up with them. They'll exit the business. Their performance gets under question.
Yeah.
Something happens.
Yeah.
Right? And those ones that were loyal, that has those things, that stayed there with those ideas, they'll still remain, right? And I'm not saying people leave because of this. I mean, people leave for various reasons.
Yeah.
But it's hard for people to speak up. And as HR, it's our responsibility to hopefully create the right environment that people can speak up.
Yeah.
And that we are allowing managers to give other employees the recognition that they deserve because it's their idea, it's their plan.
Yeah.
And also when we have team meetings or when we're discussing things, we always ask, so how would you handle this? What do you think? Right? And that's how you become effective.
Yeah.
I don't know everything. And I don't. And that's the reality. I'm not the smartest person in the room. I can tell you that much. But one thing I can tell you is that when I do something, I do it with passion.
Yeah.
But when I also do something, I know what I'm doing. I'm doing the research. I'm getting it done. I'm sorting these things out. So when I'm coming to you, I know that I'm doing this because I'm competent enough and I have the skills and capabilities to do this. But that doesn't mean that I need to be naive and not take other people's opinions into consideration. Yeah. Because they will probably have far better ideas than you can have. And oftentimes we make these mistakes as managers that once we reach a certain level, we think we're better than everyone. Yeah. In fact, you're not. You're only as good as how you cultivate your team.
That's amazing. So you clearly have a lot of experience. and, you've worked with people, you've, encountered challenges as a leader. So what I want to ask you is, how do you deal with discrimination at your level, or how do you cope? Because I can imagine that comes with its own challenges, being high up and, having to perform at your best. How do you deal with those challenges?
It's hard. You got to have a very thick skin.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's hard having that thick skin. I can tell you, like, being discriminated against because of your age, because of your race, because of your gender, it's not cool.
Yeah.
Right? But the people that do it feel that they're entitled to do it. And sometimes we're in a position where, like, we need this job. What are we going to do? You got to suck it up, right? And it's not okay.
Yeah.
And it makes it hard for us to call out this behavior at times. And for me, what I often found is there were times like I was tolerating this for a while. And eventually I was saying enough is enough.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to do this anymore.
Yeah.
Like, this is not happening. And I mean, my work speaks for itself. You've seen what we've done. You've seen how we transformed. I mean, we've won awards. I've won awards, all of these fun things.
Come on.
But, it's great.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. It's great when you get recognized for all of these things. But sometimes when your own organization doesn't recognize the value in you, then you've got a problem.
Yeah.
At the same time, having those awards is great. But that only means you've set the bar higher for yourself and now you've got to perform. And it's good for that moment. But that should not change the person you are and the things that you should be delivering on. I said it before, for me, my purpose is to make a difference. And that's what I want to do. And that's my belief. That's who I am. I want to make a difference in individuals, whether it's through training, whether it's through various opportunities we can create in HR or whatever the case may be. And, someone also asked me the question, well, you're firing someone. I'm like, well, that also makes a difference, right? I know it sounds bad, but it is.
Yeah.
But I think, when you're in a space where you are experiencing a lot of these things, a few things that you need to remember is you need to create the right support structure around you. How do you get people to help you realize that it's not about how you're being treated or whatever it is, right? It's about you as an individual. How do you get past this? Creating that network, and then and you got to make a decision. You're either going to stay in this environment and you're going to allow this to happen. You're going to stay in this environment and you're going to try and change it as best you can, or you're going to find a new environment. Yeah. And you're going to have to make that decision. Yeah. And sometimes it's hard, but you're going to do it. And going through that also, you find that, it's so hard because it's there. Yeah. And, we're talking about the other side of HR, and I'm going to tell you, I've personally experienced it in more ways than one, whether it was through organizations, whether it was through interview processes, whether it was through networking events because there's cliques or whatever the case may be. You get it. And once you're in it, it's so hard to come out of it. Like, it's so hard to say, well, I need to remove, like, it's hard, but you gotta have to do it. Yeah. And it's there, and you gotta accept it. Yeah. Like, you gotta accept the fact that, I'm not gonna get paid as much as my counterparts do because I'm not of the same race as them. Or I'm not gonna get certain jobs in certain companies because I don't meet the BE quota. Or I'm not gonna get certain jobs, or I'm not going to get certain promotions because of whatever. Like, unfortunately, it's become a reality for some of us, and it scars you. So while you heal from those scars, when you look at those scars, you remember. But the challenge then is when you look at those scars and you remember, how do you make it different for the people behind you so they don't have to deal with that stuff that you dealt with? Because that's how you know that you're making a difference. Yeah. For me, it's the people that are following, that are coming through the HR fraternity now, that are graduating and looking at HR as this wonderful career. How do we remove these things from them? Yeah. And it's hard. There's no policy. There's policies there. So what? What does that mean? And for me, it was hard. It was tough. I went through, real, we use this bad word, mental health issues and those things. And it's true. It's a reality. But you go through depression and you go through a lot of these things. Now you start second guessing yourself.
True.
Am I worth it? Should I be here? Are they saying the things correctly? Maybe I don't deserve the increase that I should be getting because of whatever reason, right? That's not fair. And it's up to us as leaders and challenge to CEOs and business owners, create the right culture in your business. I cannot stress how much culture has such an important part in that business, because if you create the right culture, you're going to eliminate a lot of these things.
True.
And that's what you want. You want an organization that's high performing.
Yeah.
One of a very sort of well-known speaker, Dr. Tanvi, talks about this, and she's from Singapore, and she has lots of good stuff, and I always make reference to her. I think I saw her well before COVID. I think it was like 2018 sometime. And we were in Singapore at the HR Tech conference, and she said something so profound that still sticks with me. And she says, people want a cutting-edge organization, but they're not ready to bleed.
Sure.
Right? And if you want to build a cutting-edge organization, as hard as it is, you got to cut through some of these things, and it's going to cost you. You're going to bleed, but it's okay. It's okay. And some corporates get it right, some businesses get it right, and others don't. And it's a challenge, and it's a problem, and hopefully one day we'll be able to fix some of these things.
Sure. That's so profound. And just out of curiosity, what's your favorite book and why?
I've got a few favorite books. At the moment, I'm reading The Diary of the CEO.
Okay. I
like it because, like, some of the things was like obvious. I'm like, come on, man, you should know this. And some of the things are not. I like reading books that sort of stimulate the mind. I like reading things that will challenge you. Like, oh, okay, I didn't think of this. Or, hey, we should be doing it. So I like those type of books. I think, that's my favorite book at the moment. Diary of the CEO. I think there's such golden nuggets that you can take out of that book.
Yeah.
And practical examples that that people resonate with.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. I think I had a long-term goal. I don't know if I'm calling it long-term because it hasn't beared fruit yet. I would really want to write a book, and maybe that will be my favorite book. But biasness, right?
Yeah.
But I would like to write a book on the corner office scam and how, when we start our journey, and that was me, like, you're so into it. You just want to push. You just want to go. You just want to bulldoze. And you get into that position or that corner office or that title. And once you're there, it's such a lonely world. Like, you're dealing with so much, corporate politics, lobbying. Every person is out, for blood and make themselves look good. Like, it's not as glamorous as it seems. And I want to hopefully unpack some of my experiences and some of the stories that people can share, not just me, around that corner office scam and why sometimes it's not what it seems.
All right. Thank you, Kyle. And what are your parting shots? What do you want our viewers to remember you for?
Remember, I'm going to come and go.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's going to be much better, smarter people out there. For me, it's if you can make a difference, make that difference, because you are changing that person's life. You're impacting a family. You're changing a community. If no one made that difference in me, I wouldn't be sitting here.
Yeah.
And my thing is just make a difference.
Thank you. And we've got a little gift for you just to say thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
I really enjoyed our chat. You touched on some controversial stuff, but I love every moment. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
We appreciate you and your time, and we hope that you drive home safe.
Thank you so much, and thank you to your viewers.
Thank you, ladies and gents. That was Kyle Chetty on episode 25. Please let us know what you thought about the episode. Catch us next time on episode 26. Stay safe, and don't forget to pray. It's your sizzling host, Babi Mawela.